All right. So what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I guess most of my life was spent in the HVAC industry. Went to school for commercial refrigeration, and I guess I've been in the industry probably about 32 years. It's been a changing, crazy field for sure. But
you're an HVAC technician?
Yeah, started out, like kind of the American dream. I guess you'd say. Some days it's a curse, but started out as a technician, went to school for it, and worked in the company for about 14 years. Did commercial refrigeration before that for 5 years, and then ended up, my wife and I ended up buying the company. So currently we've owned the company for about 15 years.
Now we got a story on our hands. That's so cool. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. Never really planned on buying a business, but yeah, it just kind of worked out that way that kind of saw the potential of the company and, started at the bottom of the totem pole coming in and worked our way up. And then my wife joined the business, probably would have been 4 years before we bought it.
So you worked as a technician for years, then you ended up buying the business?
Correct. Yeah. You were young, and when we got married and, started having a family and was doing commercial refrigeration, which service tech as a commercial refrigeration is quite a bit of responsibility. At that time I was about 18, 19. And so, a lot of supermarkets, a lot of cheese factories, big, massive systems. And, it's pretty much on call and could literally work through the night and, go in the next day and run my calls. It really didn't allow much for, like family time or, it just felt like I was not around the family as much as I wanted. And so then kind of changed careers after we had our firstborn and changed careers and went into the residential side, which was a huge change, going from commercial refrigeration to residential, like heating and cooling. Kind of funny, but, I'm working on compressors that are the size of like small cars and going into a house where it's kind of like they're the size of a basketball, so worked my way up, service, installation, and then started sales and managing, and then here we are today. But yeah, it's been a ride and met a lot of good people along the way, a lot of great technicians. And that's one thing that I would say with our industry is there's a lot of networking and a lot of good people that, are in the industry and just, I don't know, average people.
You got to have a lot of wild stories out in the field. What are some of your wildest stories?
This would be a good one. It was Halloween. Pager goes off and it's the hospital. They basically say the morgue is down. And
oh no.
So I'm like, okay, somebody's playing a prank or something, and so try getting a hold of the maintenance guy at the hospital and nobody answered, and so I kind of waited and, just kind of weird that usually if they call, they're going to answer. So and then about 5 minutes later, the pager goes off again. So then I call and I get somebody and he's like, yeah, the morgue is down. Here I am, it's Halloween. And that was the first time I've ever been in a morgue. And I was like, so is it occupied? And he's like, well, obviously, because why would we be calling you if it wasn't, right? So I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, it's down this way. The door is on the left. I got things to do and just let me know what you find. Well, it was so creepy because you're walking down this dimly lit hallway and I'm waiting for like this, prank, like somebody to jump out and scare me and get it on video or something. And, walk in and literally like what you see on like TV, like these morgues and the slide out drawers and stuff. And I'm just like, it's just a walk-in cooler. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And open up the door and, sure enough, there's a couple body bags in there. And it was just
Wow.
like, the weirdest thing because I'm having to work above. Obviously, I didn't, you can't see the bodies. They're in the body bag, but you're working above them on this cooler. And yeah, that was.
How long did you have to spend fixing the cooler in there?
I was probably in and out for about 3-4 hours.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And it was warm. It didn't smell that great.
It was literally Halloween.
It was literally on Halloween.
That's a crazy coincidence.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was one. The other would be, another one would probably be, drive by this place all the time and it's just run down, and I've never really been there. Just kind of weird looking outside. Well, get called out there. It's night and they don't have any heat. And it's like the furnace is downstairs. So I get downstairs and it's like all these grow lamps and tinfoil on the ceiling. And like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, and I can hear him upstairs, like freak out, like, oh my gosh, he's in the basement. And then comes running down. He's like, what did you see? This is like before, not good service. Cell service is sketchy at that point. I'm like, I'm looking at the furnace. That's what you wanted. And, just playing dumb. And, obviously I saw that. And this is probably one of the things, like, you just got to know your surroundings and you got to be aware. And sometimes it's okay just to walk away, right? Or come up with something to just walk away. But I get down there and obviously the guy is on something. And part of it is like, okay, now it's just elevated, because he's freaking out, like, what am I going to do? So I'm fixing on the furnace. He's right over my shoulder, and he wants heat to obviously keep this stuff growing and warm. So I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to think of my way out. And there's only one way. It's up through those steps. And I can hear somebody else upstairs. And I just thought, man, this is how I'm going to go, right? Murdered in a basement. And a bunch of pot and stuff around me. And just thought, man. So on one shoulder, I'm thinking, get out of here. And on the other shoulder, I'm like, you got a responsibility to do it to get them heating, right? So like, this is a part. I need a part. So I go out to my van. I walk up past the guy and I'm like, all right, and there's another guy in the kitchen as I'm walking out. I'm like, okay, you're outside, just get in your van and leave. But no, I grab the part and I walk back in to fix the furnace, right? Because you just get instilled, like you got to get it running. You got to get it heating. But I grabbed a hammer going down. Like, the guy was freaking out. He was really paranoid. And I'm like, okay. So I literally I walked right back into it again. And, I was fully aware, 5 minutes ago, like, I need to get out of here. But this is the prelude of, like, this is why it's important to know your surroundings, because the furnace, it wouldn't, like, there was major issues with it. And I'm walking out and the guy is kind of like blocking my way, getting up the steps. And he's like, well, it's not going to be heating. And I'm like, no, it's not safe, to keep running. And he's narrowing my walkway. I'm trying to squeeze by him on the steps and thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to go down. And I'm like, need a new furnace. And they're like, well, we rent here and you'll have to call the owners. And I'm like, okay. So I call the owners and the owners meet me like 2 days from them. And they pull up in this RV. They're from out of state. She's telling me the story about this is where she grew up and blah, blah, blah. And, so many memories and that. And so we're sitting in this RV and I'm like, well, there's a couple things I think you should know about your rental, like there's stuff in the basement. But they're like, well, yeah, there's obviously, it's an old farmhouse and blah, blah, blah. So she's like, let's go see the house. We walk in. And as I walk in the door, I look up on the kitchen ceiling and there's all this writing up on the ceiling. And I'm starting to scan the room and it's like there is writing and phrases and paragraphs written like across the ceiling of the kitchen, the ceiling of the living room. I look in the living room, it's on the walls, pictures of women with their eyes cut out and stuff like that.
Dude.
And it's like, it's like a manifest of like what this guy wanted to do or was going to do, and she lost it. I mean, she just started throwing stuff and obviously it was her childhood house. Like the next week, we ended up doing a furnace replacement. It was weird because we still had to heat the house and nobody was supposedly living there. And my partner and I were in the house and we're walking around. We got to get a thermostat put on. So we're kind of upstairs and we're kind of looking. And it's like there's one locked door with a padlock. And it's like, and no, I don't even want to, it's like you swore you heard something in there when you're working, but it's probably your mind. But that was probably the most creepiest thing. I mean, even worse than the morgue, but just like in that space. And I just missed it. I totally was blind and missed literally the writing on the wall. And so that's one thing that I'll say is you got to be aware of your surroundings. And I not only walked into it once, but I walked into it twice.
So there's a lot of stories about equipment being completely janked up. How often would you say that's the case, or is it kind of a meme?
You're talking like the equipment itself cobbled?
Yeah.
There are contractors out there that like anything goes, but I would say in our area, it's very, very few and far between. And honestly, when it is cobbled, it's typically like a homeowner installed it. There's a lot that can go wrong. It's gas and electric and it's not vented right. You got carbon monoxide. Most of it is done correctly. Our objective isn't to go into a house and rip somebody off or screw somebody over. My main objective is to get it working and get it safely working. And then at that point, give people options of you repair it or replace it. I don't care what you do. You just got to do something, right?
For you, what was it like going from doing physical labor to being a business owner?
It was tough. I mean, and to this day, I still am in the field quite a bit. But, I was brought up with a very strong work ethic. So in the beginning, even as an employee, not to pat myself on the back, but I was out working a lot of people. When you're getting told like, hey, slow down, you're making us look bad, right? It's like, well, that's kind of backwards, right? And it's like, don't get it done too quick. And it's just like, well, let's get it done. It's the mind frame of do as little as possible and make as much as you can. And that's totally like a short-term mentality that gets you nowhere. Most people feel like they're like, oh, I'm stuck, right? And it's like, because you're thinking like you're on a 4-foot ladder. You've reached the top and like you haven't even, you need to get off that ladder and get on a different ladder, right? You need to start training, you need to start learning, you need to apply. And, if you change your mental mind frame to, how much can I bring to the table? That opens up so many doors and avenues of like, okay, now you're more valuable in like the sales or the service manager position or lead technician, supervisor or whatever, I see it so many times it becomes a standstill. Like I don't make enough money, but it's like, well, you're not doing any training. Well, if I got paid more, I would. Well, you were told you get paid more. And we've put our foot forward first and we're waiting for you to pull up your end of the bargain. So a lot of that comes into play and it's more frustrating because I see it all the time, like the potential of people. And I never thought that owning a business was going to be the mental toughness, the mental like wearing more than physical. The physical thing is what it is, but it's the mental thing of like, who's not coming in today? Who's coming in today? How do we cover what we already promised we're going to deliver?
So you strike me as someone who's trustworthy and really good at your job. Like you do a good job and take a lot of pride in it.
Our thing is we either do it right or we don't do it. So I grew up when a handshake was your word, right? My wife and I bought our first property on a handshake, and that was your word. You go back on your word, you don't have anything. And to this day, your word is your word. And so in business, I was all about the handshake. Like I'm going to do this furnace, or I'm going to do this air conditioner. You got my word, and it's going to be great work. We go above and beyond. Nothing's cobbled. You want it right. You're paying us to do a service, and we're going to treat that, whether it's $2 or whether it's $20,000 or $50,000, we're going to treat it the same. That's how it is. And I'll never forget the first time somebody shook my hand and said, "Yep, I'll pay you." Basically, we put the furnace in, and then they filed bankruptcy.
Oh, no.
So you shake somebody's hand and you say you're going to be there, or you're going to do something, or you're going to take a phone call, or you're going to return a call. You need to do it, and that's your word. And if you don't have your word, you don't have nothing. And but yes, I would like to say that I'm a very trustworthy person, and probably too trustworthy sometimes. Should be a little more guarded, but
yeah. But yeah, I love what you're saying though. If you shake on something and you say you're going to do it, you have to do it. How has being a business owner changed your perspective on things?
The owning a business, right? Whether it's, and at the end of the day, it's just widgets. Doesn't matter if you own an HVAC business. Doesn't matter if you own a jewelry store. Any business. It's just the numbers are the same. The margins, most of them are the same, but like your percentages, doesn't matter how much money, how little money, like the percentages, they're all literally really close. And it's just literally you're selling X or Y or Z. It doesn't matter. But when my wife and I decided to go into business, my concern was, we just actually celebrated our wedding anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. But, my biggest thing was I didn't want it to affect our marriage. The business couldn't come between our marriage. And so I wasn't really sure that I could work with her full time because I just was fearful that it was going to affect our marriage. And I didn't want that to happen. I was just like, gosh, I don't know that we can do this, but I can tell you, I can't imagine not doing it with her. I would not be where I'm at today without her in the business.
Do you guys work well together?
Yes, I would say we work well together. I'm very blessed to have her as a partner, 100%, because she takes care of her end, I take care of my end, and the quality, the trust, it's all there, and I just don't have to think about that, right? It's not all roses. To say that it's perfect, that's not true. But it's how you navigate those pitfalls and hurdles, and that you get through it. It makes you stronger. But that's the one thing is having the support system, because some days, as much as you try to do your job and be awesome at it and deliver great products and great service, stuff happens, and and people get sometimes more irate, I think, than what they really need to. But then there's sometimes that it's deserved and they're just venting or whatever. And so my wife is a good supporter, and I'm a good supporter from when she's getting tore apart, like, why did it take this long or something, so it's being a support team, and being a team is probably the most crucial and we're very blessed to be in a situation to own a business, but I think the business also benefits from our enthusiasm and our quality and giving to the business.
I think that's a great place to leave it. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing your thoughts and stories.